Hello everyone, Cowbunger here, and welcome to another edition of Rate Their Chances. This is where we determine how likely or unlikely a character is to be in Fraymakers. There are many factors I take into consideration while determining this, but the most influential one is popularity, followed by potential, representation, and communication. Here's the scoring system for this series. A 5 rating means the character is one of my predictions to be in the base roster, and a 1 rating means I think they have no chance of being represented at all. For this episode, we are going to be talking about NAIR Block, requested by DSF, Choo Charles, requested by Steven Cisneros, and Filia from Skullgirls, requested by Brandon Erikoff. To start off today, we are going to be talking about the block. The block is from NAIR and DAIR. They are both simple platform fighting games where you have one attack. In NAIR you have a neutral air, and in DAIR you have a down air, and those are the only moves that you have in those respective games. The mechanics of both of these games are changed to accommodate the fact that you only have one attack, but for the most part these games are a true test of fundamentals. Both NAIR and DAIR have sold well, but they are mainly online focused games and the active player base is not high. I couldn't gauge the popularity of NAIR and DAIR as I usually do because they are platform fighting game terms that the McCloud Gaming Discord server use quite frequently. So with that being said, based purely off what I've seen since Fraymakers was announced, there are barely any requests for the block from these games to appear in Fraymakers. For the block's potential, well, as advertised, the block could only really do two things, NAIR or DAIR. So at best, they would have to be an assist. I guess I should talk about whether I think NAIR or DAIR blocks should be represented. I don't even know if they are different blocks, probably not. But the weapon the block uses is what we need to worry about. While I think the first game is probably the more recognizable one, I think that the DAIR hammer has more potential to be a fun assist. An assist that is used purely to spike opponents off stage could be fun and unique. Jake from Stomp Party does that. For representation, there's already some platform fighting game representation in Fraymakers. The more the merrier for me, but still, it could be a detractor. A hammer or sword are not a unique weapon among assists. Not sure if this matters too much as long as the weapons are used differently than the other assists, but again, it could be a detractor. And I guess there isn't any representation of the block species yet. Yeah, I gotta be honest here, I'm just filling up space because I'm not taking this request super seriously. No more fooling around, let's talk about communication. Pterodax is the developer of the NAIR and DAIR games. During Super Smash Con, the DAIR table was right next to the Fraymakers table, so if both parties wanted to have conversations about a crossover, that would have been a good spot to at least suggest bringing that up. I wouldn't say that they'd be at the table actually talking about crossovers and spoiling things, of course, but you know, maybe just like a wink and a nudge to be like, hey, can we talk later? And go from there. No matter what, Pterodax is not a hard dev to get in contact with. You can contact her through Discord and Twitter DMs and such. And even though NAIR and DAIR haven't done crossovers, I know Pterodax is chill and is up for doing crossovers. Don't ask me how I know that. And for the block's rating, I'm going to give them a rating of 2. The block has some things going for it and some things going against it, but ultimately the only way I see the block being an assist is if Team Fray wants it to happen. Nothing is stopping them if they want to make it happen, but I'm not sure if they want to make it happen, so a maybe is the best answer I can give. Next up we have Choo Charles. Choo Charles is an open world horror game where you gather materials to fight a killer train. This game has sold about 355,000 copies. Pretty good for an indie horror game. It also has more than 10,000 reviews on Steam and is sitting at a very positive. I can count on one hand how many people want Choo Charles in Fraymakers, however. Choo Charles doesn't have much going on. He moves very quickly, eats people, and can even teleport in a powered up state. Sorry, that's a spoiler. At best, I see Choo Charles as an assist. I think that's absolutely possible to make him a full playable character, but I don't think he'd be the most interesting character. For representation, Fraymakers need some indie horror game representation, and I can't say there's any other realistic way to add a train to the game. Of course, I know that's probably not a priority for them though. Still would be kind of funny. Usually in this section I talk about the other characters that could represent the series, and in this case, honestly, maybe a hot take, but the player character in a train has better potential than Choo, but Choo is the cover boy, so you can't really not add him in this instance. Choo Choo Charles seems to suffer from the same pitfall that a lot of indie game horror characters suffer, in that his design might be too much for Team Fray. Basically, the best way I can say it is just that his face looks a little too scary. Again, when there's kind of like face deformation going on, I don't see Team Fray being fond of that. For communication, 2-Star Games is the developer of Choo Choo Charles. His DMs are open on Twitter, and Choo Choo Charles has already appeared in Garden of Ban 4. Oh, here I go again with the spoilers. I'm sure all of you are really interested in the Garden of Peak lore that Choo Choo is now just suddenly a part of. Despite being a part of the Garden of Ban universe, I think that unfortunately I have to give Choo Choo Charles a rating of 1.5. I am not feeling confident in Choo Choo's chances. Again, nothing stopping him from getting in outside of Team Fray wanting it to happen, but I don't see him doing anything that stands out enough for Team Fray to want to add him in. And again, I really do think that Team Fray is probably going to stay away from him just because his game is a bit more mature and his face is really messed up, looking really scary. And for our last character we're going to go over, we're going to be looking over Filia. She is from Skullgirls, which is a 2D fighting game with hand-drawn graphics and a colorful cast of characters. This game has sold at least 3 million copies, probably more than that. That is huge for a fighting game. And Skullgirls is popular among Fraymakers fans, definitely on the higher end of requests for a crossover. In Skullgirls, Filia is a rushdown character that uses speed and unorthodox normals to mix up opponents. We already have a rushdown character in Commander Video, so I feel like Team Fray will want to prioritize other playstyles. I think that if she was added, she would be a rushdown that plays differently than Commander Video, but still, not really an archetype that should be prioritized over others right now. For representation, there are many iconic characters in Skullgirls, and the most requested character from that game is Peacock. Peacock is a zoner with a wide range of projectiles she can use. Along with being the more popular request among Fraymakers fans, she fits what Fraymakers needs more. There are no zoners in Fraymakers right now, so I think her playstyle will really complement the cast very well. Fraymakers does need a fighting game rep. They have some platform fighting game reps in there already, so something for a more traditional fighting game would be great. Peacock has a unique personality, design, and playstyle from the rest of the Fraymakers cast. She's kind of like a comedic but sinister character like BB Hood in Darkstalkers. And of course, women representation is always good. And honestly, it would be really weird to not pick a woman rep from the game called Skullgirls. For communication, Hidden Variable Studios are the developers of Skullgirls, and Autumn Games are the publishers. Hidden Variable Studios can be emailed through their website, and Skullgirls was going to do a crossover with Indivisible, and I should clarify this is the only crossover that I know about. Sometimes I miss some. I kind of did that when talking about Candyman, for example, so feel free to correct me in the comments or whatever else. Hidden Variable Studios only recently got put in charge of the Skullgirls IP, so their stance on crossover stuff is still pretty unknown right now. Skullgirls has dealt with a lot of controversy this year, and I only bring it up to explain why they are given the responsibility to continue to develop the game. So far they have not been welcomed with open arms by the community, but the only thing that really matters is if they are open to crossovers, and part of that starts with being able to see emails for business inquiries. Their email on their website seems to be a more general one, so if they get random emails cluttering their ability to find business inquiries, it could be trouble. Anyway, with all that being said, I'm going to give Peacock a rating of 4. Peacock is honestly a very good contender for being a base roster character in Fraymakers. If I had to give a top 3 most likely zoners for the game, it's probably Raymu, Peacock, and Isaac, despite everything going against Isaac. The only thing that's stopping me from giving Peacock a 5 is all the controversy and changes to the Skullgirls dev team. The dev team change could have some effect on Peacock's chances, it couldn't too, but the main thing to worry about is if they asked for Skullgirls content before some of the devs were removed from the project, then they would have to follow up and make sure it's okay with all the new devs involved now. Of course, none of that matters if they ask after all those changes have happened, so maybe it's just the most likely that we get Skullgirls content in the form of DLC. And that is it for this edition of Rate Their Chances. Thank you all for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe to see some more Fraymakers content. I do Fraymakers content at least once a week, so you always have something to look forward to there. If you are a channel member, you get a video like this one day early. Thank you to my channel members, Salt Levels Max, Stream U, Nuova, and Colby. For our next episode, we're going to be covering Bendy from Bendy and the Ink Machine, Pedro from My Friend is Pedro, and Kick from Dive Kick, so I'll see you all then. Bye.